Chapter 1. Boarding the pirate ship. You stand on the dock, staring at the ship that will carry you away from everything you knew. It isn't grand, it isn't noble. It isn't the sort of vessel a child might imagine when they hear the word pirate. No polished decks, no gleaming figurehead, no gallant sails puffed with wind like the chest of a proud soldier. Instead, the ship looks tired. The hull is scarred with scrapes where other vessels once rammed her side. The paint is chipped, a dull mixture of browns and blacks, as though someone gave up on ever choosing a color. The sails hang loose like rags on a laundry line. If you listen closely, you can already hear the faint groan of the wood as the tide pushes and pulls against her. You wonder if this is how every voyage begins with doubt. The plank beneath your feet creaks as you take the first step forward. It smells of salt, tar, and rot, a mixture that clings to your throat. A rat skitters across the edge of a barrel, pauses to glare at you with bead-like eyes, and then disappears into the shadows. You will come to know those rats well. Your boots strike the gangplank, one step at a time, the hollow thud of wood echoing into the water. The ship looms closer, its ropes dangling like tired arms, waiting for someone to pull them taut. Somewhere above, a gull lets out a mocking cry. You set foot on the deck. It isn't the triumphant arrival you once imagined. No one cheers. No one calls you brother or friend. The men already aboard glance at you with suspicion, as though you've interrupted their silent communion with the sea. They are not dressed in costumes meant for plays. They do not wear bright red coats or hats with plumes. Instead, they wear whatever cloth has not rotted from their backs-patched shirts, trousers stiff with old sweat, leather belts cracked and warped. Some are barefoot, their feet darkened with tar. A man with missing teeth grins at you, and you catch a whiff of rum on his breath, even though the sun is barely past morning. He spits to the side, the glob landing with a wet slap against the boards. Another scratches at his beard with blackened fingernails, as though weighing whether you're worth the trouble of acknowledging. You are now one of them, though they have not yet decided if you belong. The captain does not appear immediately. That too surprises you. Perhaps you thought he'd emerge in dramatic fashion, coat swirling, cutlass gleaming, voice like thunder. Instead, you hear him before you see him, the steady click of boots on wood, the faint scrape of a cane. He steps into the light. His hat is plain, not extravagant. His face is lined, not with wisdom perhaps, but with weather, the kind of wrinkles carved by sun and salt and sleepless nights. He says your name slowly, as though tasting it. You'll earn your keep or feed the fish, no room for anything in between. The ship itself feels alive beneath you, though not in the way of myths and songs. Every board flexes. Every nail complains. The deck is sticky in places, rough in others. The ropes above sway lazily, groaning against the mast. You touch the railing, and your palm comes away with splinters and something sticky you decide not to identify. This will be your world now. Wood, rope, tar, and water. You are shown to your sleeping quarters. Quarters is generous. The lower deck is a cave of stale air, the smell of unwashed bodies already hanging thick. Hammocks sway in crooked lines, some patched, some stained with things you'd rather not name. You notice immediately how close the ceiling is. You'll never be able to stand fully upright here. The lantern light flickers weakly, more shadow than illumination. Someone mutters, "Find an empty sling, or make do with the floor." You pick a hammock that looks less torn than the others. It rocks as you touch it, the rope creaking in protest. You sit, testing its weight, and the ship rocks with you, reminding you that even in stillness, there is motion. It dawns on you slowly, this ship will never stop moving. Even when you sleep, even when you dream, it will sway and groan, carrying you whether you want to follow or not. Historical fact, pirate ships were rarely majestic vessels. In reality, most were stolen merchant ships, hastily modified for speed and intimidation. Pirates chose ships not for beauty, but for utility, shallow drafts for sneaking into coves, wide decks for hauling plunder, fast rigging to outrun navy pursuers. The romanticized galleons of storybooks were more fantasy than fact. The crew has gathered, some leaning against barrels, others squatting on their haunches. The captain is not holding court, not delivering speeches. Instead, he sits, legs stretched, picking at his fingernails with a small blade. A man with a deep scar across his cheek steps forward. He begins to recite the articles. These are the rules of the ship. They are not read from parchment by candlelight. No striking another aboard. Save your fights for the enemy. No gambling for gold. Dice for trinkets if you must, but nothing more. All spoils divided equal, save the captain's and the quartermaster's due. Light no candle after dark for fear of fire. And any man found deserting in battle, he'll find himself beneath the waves. The men nod, some grin, revealing gaps in their teeth. Others remain expressionless, as though these rules are the only thing tethering them to a semblance of order. You nod too, though no one cares whether you do or not. Cats kept rats at bay, dogs served as alarms when strangers approached, and parrots, exotic and colorful, were often stolen from tropical ports. They became mascots, though in truth they squawked endlessly, their voices mixing with the creak of rope and the crash of waves until it was hard to tell where man ended and bird began. The day stretches long. Tasks are assigned without ceremony. You swap the deck, pushing brackish water across warped boards. You haul ropes, the fibers biting into your palms until your skin reddens. You scrub pots blackened with grease, though no matter how hard you work, the smell of rancid fat lingers. Above all, you listen. The sea is not silent. It laps, slaps, whispers. The wind hums through the rigging, sometimes like a whistle, sometimes like a moan. The wood beneath you creaks in protest, as though resenting every burden you place upon it. Footsteps thud across the deck. Voices murmur, rise, fall. Every sound layers upon the next until you cannot tell if the noise is outside or inside your head. This, too, is part of pirate life, the endless noise that becomes its own kind of silence. Historians often debate the true democracy of pirate crews. Unlike naval ships, where hierarchy was rigid and cruel, pirate vessels allowed crews to vote on captains, divide spoils, and even remove leaders who grew too cruel. Some argue this was the earliest experiment in egalitarian governance on the seas. Others suggest it was less noble, a fragile balance of fear and necessity, where men followed rules only because chaos meant death. Night falls. You lie in your hammock, the ship swaying gently, the air thick with the sour smell of sweat and damp canvas. Rats scurry above you, claws scratching across the beams. A lantern swings with the motion of the ship, its light painting slow arcs across the faces of men already asleep. Some snore. One mutters in his dreams. Another grinds his teeth, the sound sharp as a file. Your own eyes close, though not easily. You are rocked by the endless cradle of the sea, lulled not into comfort but into uneasy surrender. And you think, is this freedom or prison without walls? The wood groans, the ropes creak, the waves whisper. You are adrift now. Adrift in the beginning of a life you cannot yet understand. Perhaps freedom has never been the absence of chains, but the choice to carry them willingly. Perhaps the creak of the deck and the slap of the sea are reminders that every escape comes with its own price. You close your eyes, letting the ship rock you into restless dreams. Tomorrow, you will wake not as a passenger, but as part of the crew. Sleep now. The sea will not wait. Chapter 2. The first full day at sea. You wake not because you want to, but because the ship demands it. The hammock beneath you has rocked through the night, a pendulum of discomfort. Your back aches from its thin support. Your neck protests as though you've been lying at the wrong angle for hours. The air down here is thick, sour with sweat, and alive with the tiny scrabbling of unseen feet. Someone near you coughs, a wet rattle that reminds you of water filling a basin. Someone else snores with the determination of a man who has done it for decades. Above all of it, there is the ship, always the ship. The slow groan of timbers, the faint slap of waves against the hull, the ropes above squeaking as they rub against wood, like mice gnawing endlessly. It is a lullaby and an alarm all at once, reminding you that you are not on land anymore and you will not be again for a long while. You swing your legs over the side of a hammock, the rope creaking, and drop down onto the damp planks. They are sticky underfoot. Someone's spilled rum has dried into the grooves. Someone else's boots have left marks of tar. The smell rises as you walk, sour, sharp, and uncheckable. When you climb up onto the deck, the light strikes your eyes. It is too bright, too merciless. The sea stretches out endlessly, the horizon an unbroken circle of gray-blue. The ship is already moving, though you hadn't felt the shift from dock to ocean. Sails sag and then swell as the wind catches them, the ropes snapping with sudden tension. The deck tilts slightly underfoot, as though testing your balance. You cling to the railing. Your stomach churns. It is not hunger, not exactly. It is the sea reminding you that your body is built for land, and you have betrayed it. You swallow, trying not to empty your insides before the crew has even judged you. A man nearby sees you pale and grins, his missing teeth like gaps in a picket fence. First day's the worst, he mutters. If you don't fall overboard, you'll live. You don't know if that's comfort or a threat. Breakfast is no feast. You are handed a wooden bowl that has seen too many hands, its edges dark with grime. Inside, a lumpy paste of ship's biscuit soaked in water. The biscuit itself is hard enough to chip a tooth, filled with weevils that writhe if you stare too long. But once drowned in the liquid, the insects sink, becoming part of the mush. You eat because you must. The weevils taste of nothing. The biscuit tastes of old flour and dust. A man beside you sprinkles his with something brown salt pork fat he has hoarded from the last voyage. He chews with a kind of satisfaction, smacking his lips loudly. The infamous ship's biscuit, also called hardtack, was a staple aboard pirate and naval ships alike. Made of flour, water, and sometimes salt, it was baked into rock-hard squares that could last months, even years. They were so tough sailors sometimes had to break them with a hammer, soak them in water, or even hold them near a fire to soften them. Insects often nested inside, but eating them was considered part of the meal. You are put to work. There is no easing in, no gentle introduction. The sea does not wait, and neither do pirates. You swab the deck, pushing brine water with a mop that smells of mildew. The boards are uneven, warped by sun and soaked by years of storms. As you push the water forward, it seeps into cracks, bubbling up tar that smells thick and sweet. The sun beats down, and sweat trickles along your back until the shirt clings to your skin. When the mop is taken from you, you are given rope. Your task is to haul and coil, your palms burning as the fibers cut into them. The rope is rough, sticky with salt and grease, heavier than you thought it could be. You coil it as neatly as you can, though your loops look clumsy compared to the practiced spirals of the men beside you. They smirk but do not correct you. Learning here comes through mistakes, and mistakes come with bruises. The sails above creak as they shift, slapping loudly when the wind changes. You hear curses shouted as men climb the rigging, their bare feet gripping rope with spider-like ease. Their bodies sway high above, weightless against the sky. You are told not to look up too much, you'll only get dizzy. And then you'll fall, and then someone will have to clean you off the deck. So you keep your head down. It was uncommon for sailors to carve little figures into the handles of their knives or into the boards of the ship itself. These crude carvings, faces, initials, or strange symbols served as both decoration and superstition. Some believed carving their name into the ship bound them to its fate, keeping them alive until they returned to shore. Others carved to pass the endless hours of monotony. Ships became floating museums of graffiti, each scratch a reminder that men were here, men endured. By midday, the sun has climbed higher. The heat presses against your skin. The tar in the seams softens, releasing fumes that sting your nose. You are thirsty, but water is rationed. Instead, you are given rum, not fine rum, not sweet, golden, noble liquor. This rum is dark, harsh, and diluted with water so it lasts longer. It burns your throat and makes your stomach clench, but it also dulls the ache in your muscles, softens the edge of your fear. Men drink greedily, laughing as they wipe their mouths with the backs of their hands. Some throw the liquid down in one gulp, others sip slowly as though savoring something rare. You realize this will be your water now, day after day, night after night. A ship runs on rope, wind, and rum. Why rum? Why was it such a constant in pirate lore? Historians argue that rum was not just preference, but practicality. Water stored in barrels grew stale quickly, sprouting algae or turning brackish. Beer spoiled in hot climates. Rum, however, lasted. Diluting it with water made the supply stretch further and killed some of the bacteria in the barrel. Some scholars suggest pirates drank rum as ritual as much as necessity, a daily oath, binding them together in shared misery. Others argue it was simply the cheapest liquor available in the Caribbean trade. The day drags. Time aboard ships stretches differently than on land. Hours are measured not by clocks, but by bells and tasks. A bell rings every half hour, marking the watches, 4 hours at a time, 8 watches in a day. You lose track quickly, the rhythm of your life now divided into shifts of work and uneasy rest. The crew does not talk much. They grunt, curse, laugh occasionally, but conversation is not free-flowing. These men have known each other for years, and words have been used up long ago. You are the stranger, the one who has nothing yet to say. You listen instead. You hear the slap of waves, the creak of boards, the groan of wood, the faint whine of rope rubbing against the mast. Over and over, the sounds blend into one long hum. At times, it feels hypnotic, at times maddening. Dinner is worse than breakfast. A pot of salted pork is ladled into bowls. The meat is stringy, stiff with salt, and coated in fat that clings to your lips. The smell is pungent, but after hours of work, you eat quickly, ignoring the way it sticks in your throat. A weevil crawls across the rim of your bowl. You flick it away and keep eating. The men around you joke about it. They name the weevils, bet on which will crawl fastest. Hunger and boredom make humor of anything. As the sun sinks, the sky bleeds orange and purple. The horizon glows faintly, then darkens. A bell rings. Men shuffle into their hammocks. Others take their posts on deck, for the sea never sleeps, and so neither can the ship. You lie back in your sling, the canvas damp and sour. Above, the lantern swings again, painting shadows across the beams. The ship rocks gently, endlessly. Your body aches, your skin itches from salt, and your mind drifts into the strange place between exhaustion and thought. You wonder if this is what freedom feels like, an aching back, a sour stomach, and a deck that never stands still. Perhaps freedom is not a grand adventure, but a slow surrender to endless tasks. Perhaps the creak of rope and the groan of wood are not obstacles, but the rhythm of survival. You close your eyes. The hammock sways, the sea whispers. Tomorrow will be the same, and the day after, and the day after that. In the monotony, you will find a strange kind of peace. Sleep now. The sea will carry you. Chapter 3. The Rope, the Whip, and the Silence. You wake again before dawn, though dawn is meaningless here. The light hasn't broken the horizon yet, but the bells dictate your time, not the sun. 4 hours of restless sleep, then up again. The hammock swings you awake, and the smell of stale bodies presses against your nose. When you climb the ladder to the deck, the air feels fresher, though fresher is generous. It is damp, salty, with a faint tang of tar, but at least it is not sweat. At least it is not the sour tang of pork fat clinging to the beams below. The sky is pale. The sea is restless. The sails above flap, snapping like flags in an endless parade. The men on watch shuffle stiffly, eyes bloodshot, their movements sluggish. You join them. You do not know what your task is yet. You only know there will be one. The quartermaster barks at you. A rope is shoved into your hands. Haul it. You haul. Your palms blister, the salt grinding into raw skin. The rope feels alive, writhing against you, heavier than it should be. Above, the sail tightens, catching the wind with a sudden lurch that nearly pulls you off your feet. Men laugh. You are learning by humiliation. By mid-morning, the sun glares down. The deck grows hot underfoot, boards radiating warmth into your boots. The tar between planks softens, giving off its sticky perfume. You swab again, you haul again, you coil again. Monotony is not the punishment, it is the way of life. Then comes the shouting. Two men argue near the foremast. You cannot make out every word, but the tone is clear. One accuses, the other denies. Voices rise, fists clench. The crowd gathers quickly, eager for distraction. Then the captain steps in. His presence silences the men more than any weapon. He listens briefly, one hand resting on his cane. Then he nods, slowly. Bring the rope. The accused man does not resist. Perhaps he knows resistance will worsen things. His shirt is stripped from him. His back is bare, skin darkened by sun and scarred by past voyages. The rope is looped around his wrists, tied to the mast. His arms stretch high, muscles straining. A whip appears. Not clean leather, but a rope's end stiffened with tar. The first strike lands with a crack that echoes across the deck. The man grunts, but does not cry out. The second lands, then the third. The skin reddens, then splits. The crew watches in silence. No jeers, no cheers. This is not entertainment. This is a reminder. When it is over, the man sags against the ropes. The knots are undone, and he stumbles away, clutching his side. No one comforts him. No one mocks him either. He is simply absorbed back into the ship, another body among many. You realize then, pain here is not spectacle. Pain is order. Pirate ships were not lawless free-for-alls. Discipline was enforced, often harshly. Punishments included flogging with the Caddo Ninetails, marooning, abandoning a man on a deserted island, or keel-hauling, dragging a man beneath the ship's barnacle-crested hull. While less frequent than in naval vessels, punishment aboard pirate ships was real and brutal, for chaos endangered everyone. After the punishment, the day continues as if nothing happened. Ropes are hauled, decks swabbed, sails trimmed. The sea does not pause for a man's pain, and neither do pirates. You are handed a bucket, told to scrape the deck clean of fish scales left by the night's meager catch. The scales cling stubbornly, glinting like shards of broken glass. As you work, you notice carvings scratched into the wood, tiny faces, initials, strange shapes. Someone before you passed the hours the same way, etching proof of their existence. A rat darts past, bold in daylight. It pauses to nibble at a scale, then vanishes beneath a coil of rope. The crew ignores it. Rats are as permanent as sails, as expected as waves. Rats were both plague and salvation aboard ships. They devoured food stores and spread disease, but they also served as an early warning system. If rats abandoned ships scurrying toward ropes or leaping overboard, sailors often believed disaster was coming. Some crews even tried to keep them intentionally, claiming rats gnawed at the worms that ate through wooden holes. By afternoon, your hands throb, your back aches. The rhythm of ship life has begun to settle into your body. Swab, haul, scrape, repeat. The sea stretches in all directions, endless and indifferent. The horizon is both prison wall and promise, but you cannot decide which. The men around you speak little. They nod, grunt, curse when ropes slip. Conversation is sparse, words saved for when they matter. You realize how loud silence can be, how the creak of the mast and the slap of the waves fill every gap. Rum is served again. The burn down your throat is familiar now, though not pleasant. The men drink with steady hands. No toasts, no cheers. Rum is fuel, not celebration. Historians disagree on the level of brutality aboard pirate ships compared to naval vessels. Some argue pirates were more lenient, using punishments sparingly since crews were voluntary. Others claim punishments were exaggerated by storytellers to make piracy seem more terrifying. Evidence suggests reality lay in between. Discipline was harsher than land life, but less relentless than the Navy, where flogging was routine. Pirates punished only when they believed order depended on it. As evening comes, the sky bruises purple. The ship's lanterns flicker to life, swinging with the sway of the deck. The punished man lies silent in his hammock, back raw and glistening. No one speaks of it. The event has already faded into the hum of ship life. You lie in your own sling, staring at the beams above. The rats scurry. The lantern swings. The ship rocks. And you think, punishment here is not about justice. It is about survival. Perhaps that is the truest law of the sea. Maybe justice has never been scales of fairness, but the weight that keeps a ship from tipping into chaos. Maybe the whip is not cruelty, but a desperate attempt to keep fragile order afloat. You close your eyes, the rope creaks, the waves whisper. Tomorrow will come, and with it, more of the same. Sleep now. The ship is endless, and you are only beginning to understand it. Chapter 4, Rot in the Barrels, Sickness in the Air. You wake to the smell before the sound. It is sour, sharp, heavy in your nose. At first you think someone has been sick in the night. Then you realize the smell is everywhere, clinging to the beams, the planks, even the canvas of your hammock. It is the smell of food aboard a ship food that was once fresh, then stored, then forgotten. When you rise and climb to the deck, the air feels clean for a moment. Salt, wind, tar. But soon you are handed a bowl, and the truth returns. Breakfast is salted fish today. Thin, gray, brittle as bark. It flakes in your hands, leaving grease on your fingers. The flesh is dry, yet somehow slimy at the same time, clinging to your tongue. The smell fills your mouth, your nose, your head. Men chew slowly, jaws grinding, faces blank. It is not joy, not nourishment. It is only fuel. One man bites into a piece and finds the center blackened with rot. He shrugs and eats it anyway. Pirate ships carried salted meat, hardtack, dried peas, and whatever could survive months without spoiling. But barrels leaked, sacks grew damp, and heat ruined stores quickly. Maggots, mold, and rot were common. Sailors learned to eat quickly, cutting away the worst, chewing around the insects. Food was survival, not pleasure. Later, you are ordered below deck to help with stores. You descend into the belly of the ship, where the air is hotter, thicker. Lantern light reveals rows of barrels, some leaking brine, some crusted with salt crystals. The smell down here is worse than any you have known. Sour beer, rotting pork, the faint sweet stench of mold. You pry open a barrel of water. Inside, the liquid is greenish, speckled with floating matter. A man dips a ladle, sniffs, then dumps it back. Too far gone, he mutters. The barrel will be rolled aside, left to slosh uselessly until it's thrown overboard. Another barrel is opened, and inside the pork lies in gray lumps, fat congealed, crawling with worms. The man beside you stabs one with his knife, flicks it away, and shrugs. Still good. He hacks off a chunk, drops it into a sack. That sack will feed the crew tonight. You gag quietly. He laughs. Some sailors believed the worse the food looked, the better it kept. They swore that mold sealed flavor in, that worms added protein, that sour beer carried fewer fevers. A few even toasted their luck when they found maggots. At least it meant the meat had once been real, not sawdust pressed into shape. By midday, your stomach churns, not just from hunger, but from unease. You wonder how long a man's body can live on rot. The quartermaster has you sort sacks of dried peas. They are shriveled, rock-hard, covered in dust. You pour them into smaller sacks, listening to them rattle like bones. Somewhere in the shadows, you hear scratching. The rats are already interested. When you return to deck, the sun blinds you. You squint, grateful for air again, but your relief does not last. A man is coughing near the mast. Not the rough cough of sea air, but a wet, rattling one. He leans forward, spitting something thick onto the boards. It is streaked with red. He wipes his mouth with the back of his hand and keeps working. No one says anything. Sickness spread quickly on ships. Scurvy caused by lack of vitamin C was most dreaded. Gums swelled, teeth loosened, skin bruised easily. Dysentery, fevers, and infections from wounds claimed many more. Medical knowledge was scarce. Remedies included vinegar, saltwater rinses, or prayers. A sick man was often left to recover or to die on his own hammock. By afternoon, whispers spread. The coughing man grows weaker, his face pale beneath sun-darkened skin. He drinks water but cannot keep it down. His hammock sags with his weight, the canvas beneath stained. Some men avoid him. Others curse him for weakness. One offers him rum, and he drinks, his lips trembling. You wonder what will happen if he does not recover. You already know the answer. On some ships, sick men were given special rations, more rum, softer food, even the occasional citrus if a port had supplied it. But often, sickness was seen as weakness. Some captains encouraged the ill to rest it out. Others whispered that the sea took who it wanted, and a man's fate was not theirs to decide. The day continues. You haul ropes, swab decks, scrape rust from cannon. Your arms ache, your shoulders burn. The monotony continues, the rhythm unbroken. But in the back of your mind, you think of the man coughing. You think of the barrel of rotting pork. You think of the green water. The sea is endless, but supplies are not. Did pirates eat better than naval crews? Some historians argue yes. Pirates raided fresh provisions whenever possible, targeting merchant ships carrying fruit, vegetables, livestock. Unlike Navy sailors tied to rations, pirates could feast after a capture. Others argue this was temporary. After a few weeks, pirate ships were as miserable as any Navy vessel, their food crawling with vermin, their men wasting away from scurvy. The truth likely lay between pirates ate well after plunder and poorly in the long, empty stretches. Night comes again. The man coughing is weaker still. His breath rattles. His hammock sways with each movement of the ship, a pendulum of sickness. The crew pretends not to watch. You lie back in your own hammock, the smell of rot still clinging to your nose. The lantern swings above, rats scurry in the beams. The ship groans, and you wonder, how many men here will rot before the voyage is over? Perhaps rot is not only in barrels, but in men. Perhaps the sea teaches you that everything decays, everything spoils, everything fades. Even freedom tastes sour after a while. You close your eyes, rocked by the endless sway. Sleep comes slowly, heavy with the smell of salt and sickness. Tomorrow, the food will be the same. Tomorrow, the air will be no cleaner. Tomorrow, the sea will still demand you endure. Sleep now. The rot can wait. Chapter 5. Storm without end. You wake not to bells, but to the sound of wind. It howls low at first, a distant moan, as though the sea is whispering warnings through the rigging. Then it rises, sharp and sudden, rattling the ropes, slapping the sails like drums. The ship rocks more violently than usual, your hammock swaying so hard it smashes against the one beside it. A man curses in his sleep. Another tumbles out entirely, groaning as he hits the boards below. You climb to the deck, the ladder slick beneath your palms. When you emerge into the gray morning, the world looks changed. The sky is swollen with clouds, heavy and bruised. The horizon vanishes into mist. Waves rise taller than houses, slapping against the hull with booming force. The ship groans as it climbs one, then crashes down the other side. Spray lashes your face, salty and cold. The men are already moving, shouting, hauling ropes with frantic strength. The quartermaster's voice cuts through the roar, harsh and unrelenting. Reef the sails, reef, damn you. You grab rope and pull. The fibers bite your palms, raw from days of work, but you cling anyway. Above you, men climb into the rigging, their bodies flung against the sky as the mast sways. Their bare feet cling like claws, hands gripping with practiced desperation. They tie, knot, haul, all while the storm rages. The sails whip and snap like thunderclaps, each sound rattling your bones. You are drenched in minutes, the rain pelting you with stinging force. It runs into your eyes, your mouth, your ears, until you taste nothing but salt and copper. The storm is everywhere. Storms were among the greatest dangers for sailors of the 17th and 18th centuries. A single gale could splinter masts, shred sails, and capsize even large ships. Navigation relied on crude tools, compasses, stars. Dead reckoning and storms easily threw vessels off course by hundreds of miles. For pirates, storms were not only threats to life, but to livelihood. A wreck meant no plunder, no food, no survival. The deck tilts sharply, and you stumble, slamming into a barrel. Water rushes across the planks, pooling, swirling, escaping through the scuppers. A rat floats past on a scrap of wood, whiskers twitching as though mocking your fear. The captain appears, hat pulled low, coat plastered to his body by rain. He grips his cane in one hand, the mast in the other, shouting commands with a voice that somehow cuts through the wind. His words are few, his tone steady. Men obey, and slowly, order holds against the chaos. The ship heaves again, tilting dangerously. For a moment, you think it will not recover. Then it rights itself, groaning like a beast forced to endure. Your body aches, your arms burn. Rope slips against your skin, tearing blisters open. But you keep hauling, keep tying, keep clinging. The alternative is death, and no one will mourn you long. Some sailors swore storms were alive. They spoke of storm devils dancing in the waves, of spirits screaming in the wind. Lightning was seen as the sea god striking down the unworthy. A common superstition was to nail a horseshoe to the mast, to ward off lightning's wrath. Others muttered prayers, crossing themselves, even as they cursed the heavens. The storm stretches into hours. Time dissolves into spray, rope, shouts, and thunder. At one point, the sky splits. Lightning forks across the clouds, white and violent. For a heartbeat, the world is illuminated, the faces of men strained with fear, the sails shredded at the edges, the deck gleaming wet. Then darkness returns, thicker than before. Thunder follows, deep and shaking, rolling through your chest. The rain never stops, the sea never rests. At last the storm begins to ease, not all at once, but gradually. The wind softens, though it still moans. The rain lessens, though it still stings. The waves shrink from mountains to hills, from hills to swells. The ship groans less, though it still complains. Men slump against barrels, chests heaving. Some laugh weakly, relief painted on their faces. Others simply sit in silence, staring at the horizon as though daring it to strike again. Were pirates more skilled sailors than their naval counterparts? Some historians argue yes. Pirates often sailed smaller, faster ships and learned to navigate storms with desperate cunning. Others argue pirates were reckless, driven more by boldness than skill, and relied on sheer luck to survive. Records suggest many pirate ships were lost to storms, their names remembered only in rumor. Yet those who survived gained reputations as near superhuman mariners, legends feeding myths of invincibility. Night comes slowly. The clouds scatter, revealing a bruised sky streaked with stars. The sea calms to a slow roll, though every creak of the mast still sounds like warning. You collapse into your hammock, drenched and sore. Your body aches in every muscle. Your skin burns from rope and salt. But you are alive, and so is the ship. You wonder how many storms lie ahead. Perhaps storms are not punishments, but reminders. Reminders that the sea does not care who you are, pirate or king, sailor or slave. The storm takes, and the storm spares, without reason. You close your eyes, rocked by the aftershocks of waves. Sleep drags at your body, heavy and merciless. Tomorrow the sea will be calm again. Tomorrow the ship will creak, and the ropes will groan, and the monotony will return. Sleep now. The storm is past, but the sea never rests. Chapter 6: Votes, Shares, and the Illusion of Equality. You wake with your body still aching from the storm. The hammock presses into your shoulders, damp with sweat and salt. Your skin feels rubbed raw where a rope burned, and your arms are stiff from pulling, hauling, clinging. When you roll out, your knees crack. You are 20, 30, 40 time is impossible to measure here. Every day adds years. The ship is quiet when you climb up. Not silent, never silent. The ship always groans, always whispers, but subdued. Men move slower, voices hushed. The sea itself is calmer, a gray stretch of gentle swells. And then you notice the gathering. On the quarterdeck, men circle loosely. The captain stands to one side, cane planted on the boards. The quartermaster stands opposite him, arms crossed. Between them sits a battered chest, open, filled with gleaming and dull alike. Coins, trinkets, bits of silver plate, bolts of cloth cut down to size. Spoils. This is what the voyage is for. This is why you are here. The quartermaster speaks, his voice even, shares to be counted. He dips his hand into the chest, pulling out coins, letting them clink against the deck as he sorts them into small piles. A few men lean forward hungrily, eyes glinting. Others watch with indifference, as though they've seen this ritual 100 times before. The rules are clear. You remember them from your first day. The captain and quartermaster each take a larger share 2 men's worth. The carpenter, the surgeon, the master gunner, they take 1.5. Everyone else 1 share each. Equal among equals, at least in theory. Your own share is small. A few coins, rough in your palm, dulled by salt. It does not glitter like treasure should. It feels like a pittance for the days you've worked, the storm you've endured. But it is more than you would ever earn on land, and here, no master takes it from you. Pirate crews operated under articles written agreements that outline rules, punishments, and most importantly, the division of spoils. Unlike the Navy, where captains held absolute power and sailors received little or nothing, pirates shared loot equally, with slight advantages for officers. This system attracted men tired of hierarchy. It was rough democracy, but democracy nonetheless. When the division is done, the captain speaks. His voice is calm but steady, carrying over the creak of rope and the slap of waves. We vote now, course to be set, speak your say. The men murmur. Some argue for heading toward the Spanish coast fat prizes, gold-laden galleons. Others favor the Caribbean, where merchant ships are slower and ports plentiful. A few shout for safer waters, away from navies and storms. You expect the captain to decide, but he does not. He listens. He lets the quartermaster call for hands. And when men raise their arms, the vote is tallied, the course is set by majority. You realize the captain commands in battle, but not in all things. Out here, even he is bound by the crew's will. Some pirate articles banned gambling with coin. Dice games were allowed, but only for trinkets, buttons, tobacco, scraps of cloth. This kept men from losing their entire shares in a single night. Other articles banned bringing women aboard, lighting candles below deck, or striking a fellow crewman. The rules varied ship to ship, but the intent was always the same: maintain order, or chaos would swallow the crew. After the vote, life resumes. The chest is closed, the coins tucked away, the ship turns slightly on her course. The sails creak as they shift, the ropes groaning in their blocks. You coil rope again, your hands still blistered, still raw. You haul, you scrub, you sweat. But your mind lingers on the vote. On land, you had no say. You worked for a master, earned his wage, obeyed his word. Here, your voice might actually matter. Even if you are new, even if no one listens yet, someday you might raise your hand and tilt the fate of the ship. It feels like freedom, though fragile. Were pirate ships true democracies? Some historians argue they were radical experiments in equality, centuries ahead of their time. Others suggest the democracy was limited, fragile, and practical rather than ideological men, voted not out of principle but necessity. If a captain grew cruel, they replaced him, not for justice but survival. Pirates may not have believed in democracy for the world, only for themselves. That night, men gamble with dice, betting tobacco leaves and spare buttons. They laugh quietly, curses mingling with chuckles. Someone strums a crude fiddle, the notes thin but insistent. The ship rocks gently, lanterns swaying, shadows dancing across the beams. You sit with your coins, turning them over in your palm. They are heavy and meaningless at once. Out here, coins cannot buy you fresh food, cannot heal you if sickness comes, cannot calm the storm. But still, they glint in the lantern light, small promises of something better waiting on shore. For now, they are enough. Perhaps equality is never pure, never whole. Perhaps it exists only in moments when coins are divided, when votes are cast, when a man's voice is heard for once in his life. Perhaps the sea is the only place harsh enough to force men into fairness. You close your eyes, the coin still heavy in your hand. Sleep now. Tomorrow the work will be the same, but tonight you have earned something small, dull, fleeting, but yours. Chapter 7, Dice, Fiddles, and the Endless Boredom. The storm has passed, the vote has passed. The ship continues forward, creaking, groaning, swaying, always swaying. Days stretch long at sea, too long. You wake, you work, you eat, you drink. The pattern repeats until hours blur into one another. If not for the bells, you would not know when morning ends and evening begins. The sky is the same gray-blue, the sea the same restless surface. Even the men's faces blur sweat, stubble, scars, all repeating in the dim lantern light. The monotony presses down. And so men invent ways to keep their minds from rotting faster than the food. At first, you hear it faintly, a thin scraping sound. Then a twang. Then a tune, wobbly but determined. It is a fiddle pulled from a battered case. The man who plays is missing half his left hand, but still, he finds a way. The bow screeches at times, but the melody holds. The men hum along, tapping their feet on the planks. Someone claps in rhythm, offbeat, but no one complains. The song is not joyful. It is not mournful either. It is simply something different, and that makes it precious. Music was a vital part of life at sea. Fiddles, fifes, and drums were the most common instruments, small enough to carry aboard. Sea shanties, call and response, work songs helped keep rhythm during hauling or rowing. Pirates adapted these songs, mixing them with folk tunes from England, Africa, the Caribbean, and beyond. Music was one of the few escapes from endless labor and silence. Later, dice appear. Not polished ivory cubes, but crude bones scratched with numbers. Men squat in a circle, tossing them against the deck. They bet tobacco, buttons, bits of cloth. Sometimes they wager hours of work, promising to scrub another man's shift if they lose. The dice clatter, roll, stop. Groans rise. Cheers follow. A man claps his friend on the back as he rakes in winnings. 2 buttons, a knife handle, half a cigar stub. Another curses, swears the dice are loaded. Arguments flare, but quickly die. The articles forbid gambling for coin, and tempers cool when men remember the whip. You watch, amused, though you have nothing to bet yet. A man tosses you a button anyway. Your turn, greenhorn. The dice roll from your hand, clattering across the deck. You lose immediately. The men laugh, not cruelly, but knowingly. Everyone loses at first. Pirates sometimes held contests to break boredom. Knot-tying races, wrestling matches, even rat hunts with knives or bare hands. Some crews staged mock trials, putting each other on trial for ridiculous offenses. Punishments might include being doused with seawater or forced to sing off-key. In a world of repetition, even foolishness became sacred. By midday, the games end. The quartermaster appears, and men scatter back to work. Ropes must still be coiled, sails trimmed, decks scrubbed. The fiddle is tucked away. The dice vanish into a pouch. The monotony returns. You halt, you swab, you sweat. Your arms ache, your palms sting, your back throbs. The ship rocks endlessly, never still, never merciful. You catch yourself humming the fiddle tune under your breath, just to break the silence. Some historians argue that boredom was the greatest enemy aboard ships. Not storms, not battles, not sickness boredom. Months at sea with little to do between raids left men restless, paranoid, and prone to violence. Others counter that pirate crews found constant work bending sails, sharpening blades, repairing hulls. Perhaps the truth lies between. Boredom gnawed at the mind, but work gnawed at the body. The sea demanded both and gave nothing back. Evening comes. The dice appear again. The fiddle groans back into life. A man sings in a rough, broken voice, words slurred but steady. The crew joins in, voices merging with the creak of ropes and the lap of waves. The song is not beautiful, but it is theirs. You lie in your hammock later, still hearing the tune. The ship rocks, rats scurry, the lantern sways. But tonight you hum yourself to sleep, the melody cutting through the monotony. Perhaps boredom is not emptiness, but the canvas where meaning is painted. Perhaps the dice, the fiddle, the foolish contests are not distractions, but reminders that men are still men, even when trapped in endless sea. You close your eyes. The tune lingers, thin and imperfect, but enough. Sleep now. Tomorrow will bring the same work, the same sea, the same silence, but also the same small songs that keep the silence at bay. Chapter 8, The Chase and the Boarding. The bells ring faster than usual. The rhythm is urgent, sharp. You wake to shouts overhead, the scrape of boots against planks, the sudden thrum of motion that does not belong to routine. When you climb the ladder, the air is different. It tastes sharper, filled with anticipation. Men rush about, hauling rope, adjusting sails, shouting commands. The quartermaster points to the horizon. You squint into the glare of morning sun and see it small at first, but clear. A sail, another ship. The captain's cane taps the deck once, twice. His voice cuts steady through the noise. Give her wind. Run her down. The men obey instantly. Sails snap full, ropes creak. The deck tilts as the ship lunges forward. Your stomach lurches with it. The chase begins. The distance closes slowly. Hours pass, but every minute is filled with motion. Men climb into the rigging, tightening sails, coaxing speed from worn canvas. The ship groans with effort, boards flexing under strain. The sea sprays up, stinging your face, soaking your shirt. The other vessel grows clearer. A merchant ship. Fat, slow, heavy. She tries to flee, sails angled, but she is clumsy compared to your leaner predator. Men grin now, their teeth flashing in sand and salt. They sharpen cutlasses on whetstones, check the powder and pistols, test the edges of boarding pikes. Some hum low songs, half prayer, half hunger. The smell of anticipation is strong sweat, rum, iron. You grip a rope, heart pounding. You have not done this before. You do not know if your hands will hold steady, if your legs will carry you across the gap. The quartermaster notices your pale face and chuckles, missing teeth bared. Don't worry, Greenhorn. If you die, you'll not know it long. Pirates often relied on speed and intimidation rather than drawn-out battles. Merchant crews were lightly armed and poorly trained. A fast pirate ship flying the black flag could terrify sailors into surrender without a shot fired. Violence was costly. The more damage done, the less plunder remained. But sometimes surrender did not come. The black flag is raised. It flaps in the wind skull, crossbones, crude but unmistakable. A message, surrender or be shown no mercy. The merchant ship hesitates. Sails flutter. Men shout on her deck. She does not stop. Prepare to board. The captain growls. The cannons are run out, their wheels groaning. The smell of powder fills the air. A match is lit, glowing faintly in the gray light. The first shot thunders. The cannonball screams through the air and splinters against the merchant's hull. A second follows, tearing through her sails. Panic rises on her deck. You see men scrambling, ropes flailing, sails collapsing. Then comes the call, board her. Ropes are thrown, grappling hooks bite into wood, and the ships crash together, hulls grinding, timbers shrieking. The sound is deafening, wood against wood, iron against rope. Men leap across the gap. Cutlasses flash, pistols roar, voices scream. You are shoved forward, rope in hand, feet scrambling for purchase. For a moment, you are in the air, the sea below yawning, the spray blinding. Then your boots slam onto the other deck, knees buckling. The smell hits you immediately. Fear. Steel clashes, men shout, curse, grunt with effort. A pistol fires near your ear, the blast ringing in your skull. Splinters fly as a blade slams into wood inches from your hand. You stumble, nearly fall, then raise your rope like a weapon, though it is nothing. A man charges past you, cutlass raised, teeth bared in fury. You see his eyes wide, desperate, human, and then he is gone, swallowed by the melee. You cling to the rail, heart hammering. Around you, pirates fight with practiced brutality. Merchant sailors resist, but weakly. Their fear outweighs their courage. Soon, cries of surrender echo across the deck. Arms are raised. Weapons clatter to the planks. The quartermaster shouts for order, and slowly the chaos subsides. It is over. Some pirate crews staged mock battles after victories, forcing captured sailors to fight for amusement. Others made jokes at their expense, dressing them in rags or parading them. But often prisoners were offered a choice: join the crew or be set free at the next port. Many chose piracy, preferring harsh freedom to the whip of Navy discipline. The spoils are gathered quickly. Barrels of flour, sacks of sugar, bolts of cloth, a chest of silver coins. Not riches enough to retire, but riches enough to keep the crew fed, drunk, and willing. The merchant sailors are bound, left trembling. Some cry. Some beg. Some stare blankly at the sea, already broken. The captain inspects the hull, tapping his cane thoughtfully. Then he nods. Good enough. The crew cheers, voices rising in rough harmony. Some slap each other's backs, others swig rum greedily. The tension of the chase dissolves into relief, laughter, hunger for more. You stand among them, still trembling. Your hands shake, your legs weak. You do not feel like cheering. You feel like collapsing. But you're alive, and you are now part of something darker than you imagined. Were it pirates, ruthless killers, or practical thieves? Some records describe massacres of entire crews, left adrift or slaughtered. Others suggest such tales were exaggerated by fearful merchants and propagandists. Many pirate captains preferred surrender without bloodshed. It was faster, safer, and more profitable. Yet violence was always close, always ready. Fear was as valuable as cannons. That night, the crew feasts. The flour becomes hard bread. The sugar is poured into rum. The silver is set aside to be divided later. Men sing louder than usual, drunk on victory more than drink. You sit with your bowl, staring into the dark sea beyond the lantern light. You hear laughter, clinking bowls, the scrape of knives. But you also hear echoes of the fight, the clash of steel, the cries of surrender. And you wonder how long before the next raid. Perhaps violence is not passion, but routine. Perhaps boarding a ship is no different than hauling a rope, another task demanded by the sea. You close your eyes, rocked by the ship's gentle sway. The laughter fades, the sea whispers, and your mind drifts. Tomorrow will be another day of work, until the next sail rises on the horizon. Sleep now. The sea is not finished with you. Chapter 9: Prisoners, Choices, and the Weight of Silence. Morning comes slow after the raid. The ship rocks gently, but the memory of violence lingers. You hear it in your dreams, steel clashing, men shouting, the sound of splintering wood. When you wake, your mouth tastes of salt and smoke. The deck smells different today, not just of tar and rope, but of sweat, fear, and blood dried in the cracks. The prisoners sit in a huddle near the mast. Merchant sailors, stripped of weapons, wrists bound with rope. Their faces are pale, eyes sunken, jaws tight. Some mutter prayers under their breath. Others stare blankly at the horizon, already far away in their minds. The crew circles them like wolves circling prey. Some laugh, mocking. Others spit. A few are silent, watching with unreadable eyes. The captain stands before them, cane planted, coat hanging heavy with damp. His voice is calm, measured, almost polite. You've a choice. The word hangs in the air. Join us, he says, or be left behind. One prisoner looks up, eyes fierce. I'd sooner rot, the captain shrugs. Then rot you shall. Another trembles, then nods quickly. I'll serve. A man must live. The captain studies him for a long moment, then gestures. Ropes are cut, and he is handed a mop, his freedom exchanged for servitude. One by one, the choices are made. Some resist, clinging to pride. Some surrender, clinging to life. Others hesitate, torn between. The crew watches closely, as though weighing the value of each man's courage or cowardice. You watch too, and you wonder, what would you choose if the roles were reversed? Pirates often recruited from captured crews. Merchant sailors, poorly paid and harshly treated, sometimes joined willingly. Others refused, preferring imprisonment or even death. Those who resisted too strongly risked being marooned, left on a deserted island with little but a bottle of water and a pistol. One man refuses loudly. He curses the pirates, spits on the deck. His voice carries above the waves. Better to drown than to sail with you devils. The captain nods once. Two men drag him to the side, ignoring his thrashing. He is shoved to the rail. His curses turn to cries. Then he is gone, swallowed by the sea. Silence follows. The waves slap gently against the hull, as though indifferent. The crew disperses slowly, some muttering, others laughing nervously. The prisoners who chose to join sit apart, heads bowed, the weight of their choice pressing heavier than the ropes that once bound them. Not all prisoners were men. Occasionally, women were found aboard captured ships, either passengers or disguised sailors. Pirate lore is full of tales of women joining crews, Mary Read, Anne Bonny, but most women ended up as bargaining chips, ransomed back to their families or sold in port. Some pirates, however, forbade harming women, enforcing harsh punishment on any crewman who broke that code. By afternoon, the ship settles back into routine. Ropes are hauled, sails adjusted, decks swabbed. The prisoners who joined are put to work immediately, sweat dripping down their backs, hands blistering as quickly as yours did. They say little. You say nothing to them. Already, they are becoming part of the crew, whether they want to or not. The sea does not care what choices you made yesterday, only what labor you give today. Were pirates merciful or merciless? Some historians argue that pirates killed rarely, preferring to instill fear without waste. Others cite reports of slaughter crews, executed to eliminate witnesses, captains tortured for treasure's location. The truth likely depended on circumstance, captain, and mood. What is certain, survival was never guaranteed. That night, the mood is quieter than after the raid. The fiddle stays in its case. Dice do not clatter on the planks. Men eat their salted pork silently, the only sound the squeak of hammocks and the lap of waves. The absence of laughter is louder than noise. You lie in your hammock, staring at the beams above. The lantern sways, shadows stretching, shrinking, stretching again. The sea rocks you slowly, endlessly. You think of the man who chose drowning. You think of the one who chose the mop. You wonder which choice was braver. Perhaps freedom is never about chains or coins, but about the choices a man makes when no choice is good. Perhaps the sea teaches you that living and dying are not opposites, but neighbors sharing the same narrow hammock. You close your eyes, letting the sway carry you. Sleep now. Tomorrow, the sea will demand more choices, yours, theirs, everyone's. Chapter 10, Port, Rum, and Fleeting Freedom. The sea has been endless for weeks. You had begun to wonder if land was only a memory, a story told by men who could not endure the horizon's repetition. Then, one morning, the cry goes up. Land. The word is electric. Men rush to the rails, squinting through the haze. At first you see nothing but gray sky and restless sea. Then faint, jagged the line of shore appears. Green hills, pale sand, a curl of smoke rising from a distant town. The ship groans as she is steered toward the harbor. Sails are trimmed, ropes hauled. The smell of salt is joined by something sharper earth, soil, plants, scents forgotten after so long afloat. The harbor comes into view. A cluster of wooden docks, ships moored like cattle at pasture. Taverns line the shore, their roofs sagging but sturdy. From here, even at distance, you can hear faint music, laughter, shouts. The men grin like children. When the anchor drops, the mood changes. The captain gathers the crew, his voice steady as always. One night, 2 at most, spend what you will, but return, or be left. No one doubts his threat. No one wants to test it. Then the gangplank thuds into place. Men surge forward, boots striking wood, voices rising. You follow, stepping onto the dock, and for a moment you feel strange solid ground beneath your feet after weeks of endless sway. The stillness feels wrong, as though the earth itself has betrayed you. But then you breathe, and the smell of food, smoke, and humanity fills your nose. And you know, this is what you have been craving. Pirate havens dotted the Caribbean and beyond Nassau in the Bahamas, Port Royal in Jamaica, Tortuga off Haiti. These ports thrived on piracy, merchants selling supplies to crews in exchange for stolen goods. Taverns, brothels, and markets flourished, providing pirates with everything they lacked at seafood, drink, women, and fleeting freedom. The tavern is chaos. The door swings open and sound crashes over you, laughter, shouting, the scrape of chairs, the slam of mugs. The air is thick with smoke, sweet with rum, sour with sweat. Tables are crowded with men, some already swaying, mugs sloshing. A fiddler plays in the corner, his bow scratching furiously, half drowned by the roar of voices. You push through the crowd. A mug is shoved into your hand, sloshing dark rum. It burns your throat, but you drink anyway. The taste is sharp, hot, alive. Men gamble with coins now, not buttons. Cards slap against wood, dice rattle, voices rise in curses and cheers. Some men stagger to their feet and wrestle, laughing as they crash into tables. Others sing loudly, the words slurred but joyful. You drink again. The room spins, warm and loud. For the first time since boarding the ship, you almost forget the creak of ropes and the stink of rot. Taverns and pirate havens often doubled as markets. You could buy fresh food, weapons, stolen goods, even information. Brothel keepers sometimes worked with captains, offering discounted companionship to keep crews loyal. Some taverns had honor boards, where debts were scratched into wood until the next voyage. Few were ever paid. Later, you stumble into the street. The night air is hot, thick with the smell of roasting meat and smoke. Torches burn, casting shadows across the sand. Men stagger from one tavern to another, voices raised in drunken songs. Women lean in doorways, eyes sharp, hands quick. A fight breaks out nearby, two men rolling in the dirt, fists flying, blood splattering. No one stops it. You wander, unsteady, through the chaos. For a moment, you feel free. Truly free. The ship is far away, the sea forgotten, the rules dissolved in rum, but the freedom is fragile. You know it will not last. Were pirate ports lawless dens or organized havens? Some accounts paint them as anarchic brothels, gambling, violence unchecked. Others suggest they were carefully managed, with tavern keepers, merchants, and even colonial officials quietly profiting from piracy. Nassau, in particular, became a semi-official republic of pirates, ruled more by shared interest than chaos. The truth lies in the balance, disorder above, commerce below. By dawn, the tavern is quieter. Men slump across tables, snoring. The fiddler has fallen asleep mid-tune, bow dangling. Rum pools on the floor, sticky beneath your boots. The crew staggers back to the ship. Some limp. Some are carried. A few are missing, but no one calls for them. The dock creaks under your feet as you cross. The gangplank rises. The ship groans as sails are trimmed, ropes tightened. Land fades behind you, swallowed by the horizon. The smell of earth disappears, replaced once more by tar, salt, and rot. The sea reclaims you. Perhaps freedom is not a place, but a pause. A night in port, a mug of rum, a song sung badly but loud enough to drown out silence. Perhaps the tavern is not escape, but reminder that life on land still exists, even if it is fleeting. You close your eyes, swaying in your hammock, hearing the echoes of laughter fade. Sleep now. The port is gone. The sea remains. Chapter 11. The teeth loosen, the skin bruises, the tavern is gone. The rum is gone, the laughter is gone. Only the sea remains, always the sea. You wake to coughing. Not the sharp cough of salt in the throat, but the wet rattle of sickness. It fills the lower deck, echoing against the beams. Men groan in their hammocks, sweat dripping, faces pale. The air is thick with it, sour, hot, heavy. When you climb up, the deck feels quieter than usual. No laughter, no songs. The wind fills the sails, the ropes creak, but the men move slower, their shoulders heavy, their eyes dull. Something is spreading. It begins with gums. You notice one man spitting into a rag, red streaks staining the cloth. His teeth wobble when he grins, though there is no humor in it. His lips are swollen, his breath foul. Another shows bruises on his arms, purple blotches that appeared without blows. His legs ache, his joints stiff. The word passes in whispers, scurvy. Scurvy, caused by lack of vitamin C, was the great killer of sailors before its cure was understood. Symptoms began with fatigue and sore gums, then teeth loosened, skin bruised, wounds reopened, and death followed. Entire crews could waste away. Pirates suffered less than navies as they raided for fresh fruit when they could, but on long voyages, scurvy was inevitable. By midday, the smell of sickness is everywhere. Sweat, blood, rot. Men lie in hammocks, groaning, too weak to rise. The surgeon does what he can, which is little. He boils knives, mutters prayers, forces vinegar into mouths. None of it cures. The quartermaster barks at you to swab near the sick, mopping sweat and vomit from the boards. Your stomach turns, but you obey. A man grabs your sleeve, eyes wide, whispering nonsense. His gums bleed as he speaks, staining his lips red. You pull away, shaken. Some sailors believed scurvy could be cured with seawater baths, vinegar gargles, or even urine. Others swore onions or sauerkraut worked, but supplies rarely lasted long enough. A few pirates kept parrots or monkeys stolen from ports, not for companionship, but for meat, believing exotic animals carried curative powers. Desperation made superstition stronger than reason. By night, the deck is filled with silence. No dice clatter, no fiddle scrape. The only sound is coughing. You lie in your hammock, eyes open, listening. The man beside you wheezes with every breath. The one above you mutters in fever, words broken and meaningless. Rats scurry across beams, bold, fattening on crumbs dropped by the sick. The lantern swings, shadows stretching across hollowed faces. You wonder if you will wake with your own teeth loose, your own gums bleeding. Why did scurvy persist so long when the cure was simple? Citrus fruit was known as a remedy by some sailors as early as the 1600s, but its use was inconsistent. Some argue ignorance. Others blame logistics. Fruit spoiled quickly, and dried or boiled versions lost potency. Pirate raids sometimes supplied citrus, but long voyages stripped even pirates of their luck. Days pass, heavy with sickness. Men are buried at sea. The ritual is simple, sewn into canvas, weighted with stone, slid over the side. The splash is small, the ripples brief. Then the sea swallows them whole, as though they never existed. The captain watches in silence. The quartermaster marks names in a book. The crew lowers their heads, then returns to work. The sea allows no mourning. You swab again, you coil again. You haul again, your arms ache, your back throbs. The ship groans, the ropes creak, the waves whisper. The rhythm never changes, even as the men around you weaken. You are caught between monotony and decay. Perhaps the sea does not kill with storms or steel, but with silence. Perhaps the truest enemy is not violence, but time that rots food, weakens bodies, loosens teeth. You close your eyes, rocked by the endless sway, listening to the coughs around you. Sleep now. Tomorrow you may still have your teeth, or you may not. The sea will not care either way. Chapter 12. Storm and the Whisper of Mutiny. The sky darkens before noon. Clouds gather low and heavy, bruised purple and gray. The wind sharpens, cutting across the deck like knives. You feel the tension before the first raindrop falls, men moving quicker, ropes hauled tighter, voices raised with unease. Another storm. The captain's cane taps against the boards. Reef the sails. Steady, lads. His voice is calm, but the men's eyes flicker with doubt. The last storm cost days of labor, tore sails, and nearly drowned half the crew. Some have not forgotten. The rain begins, thin at first, then thick, pounding against canvas and skin alike. The sea rises, waves lifting the ship like a toy, then slamming her down. The timbers groan, nails squeal, barrels roll and thud across the deck. You grip rope until your hands burn, salt stinging your blisters. The wind roars, the sails whip, the mast creaks like a tree ready to splinter. And then you hear it, whispers, sharp and bitter, carried under the storm's roar. He's steering us into death. Storm will break her spine. Better a new captain than a grave. Pirates could depose their captains by vote. Unlike naval commanders, pirate captains ruled only by the crew's consent. In calm weather, their power was limited. In battle or storm, they commanded absolute obedience. If a captain was seen as incompetent or unlucky, the crew could remove him swiftly, sometimes violently. Lightning cracks across the sky, blinding white. Thunder follows, rolling deep in your chest. Rain lashes your face until your eyes sting. The ship pitches, water rushing across the deck, soaking boots, sweeping ropes and debris. A man shouts above the storm, "He'll kill us all." Another snarls, "Quiet, fool, or you'll taste rope." The quartermaster growls commands, forcing men to reef sails tighter, to lash barrels down, to pump water from below. His authority wavers. Men hesitate, glance at one another, weighing risk against obedience. The captain grips the rail, coat plastered to his back, hat long lost to the wind. He stands firm, eyes locked on the horizon, cane steady in his hand. You cannot tell if his calm is courage or madness. The storm grows, the deck tilts, nearly throwing you over. A man slides across the planks, slamming into the rail with a sickening crack. He does not rise. Another clings to the rigging, knuckles white, face pale as lightning. The whispers return. Louder now, sharper. Quartermaster could do better. He listens to us, not just his pride. Vote him out now. You feel the tension thick as the storm itself. Men's eyes flicker between captain and quartermaster, between the storm and the sea. Then the captain speaks, voice cutting through the gale. "Hold fast, damn you. Trust the ship. She's carried worse." His words are thunder of their own. Some men cheer. Others curse. The rope burns deeper into your palms as you haul, as though your effort could decide who lives and who drowns. Mutiny was not always bloody. Some captains were simply voted out, stripped of command, and given another role aboard. Others were marooned with a pistol and a flask of water. But in storms, mutiny often turned violent fear of drowning stronger than fear of rules. Many crews believed storms themselves were omens of divine judgment, blaming captains for angering the sea. Hours pass in chaos. The storm rages, the sea heaves, the crew battles water, rope, and each other's doubt. At last, the clouds begin to thin. The rain slows, the waves shrink, the ship steadies. The crew slumps, soaked, shivering, exhausted. Some glare at the captain, their whispers not yet silenced. Others nod, grudging respect in their eyes. The quartermaster says nothing, his gaze unreadable. The storm has passed. But something remains, heavy in the air. The whispers of mutiny will not vanish so easily. How often did pirates truly mutiny? Records are scarce. Some historians suggest mutinies were rare, for captains were chosen carefully. Others argue mutiny was common, hidden beneath romantic myths. A handful of logs and trial records reveal crews voting to replace captains mid-voyage. Proving pirate democracy was not just theory, it was practice, sharp and dangerous. That night, the ship creaks in calmer seas. Men slump in hammocks, silent, eyes hollow. Some glance at the captain with suspicion. Others look to the quartermaster. You lie in your hammock, the lantern swaying, the shadows long. You think of the storm, the whispers, the fragile line between leadership and death, and you wonder how long before whispers turn to votes. Perhaps power is never owned, only borrowed. Perhaps captains are not leaders, but men standing in front of whispers, holding them back for as long as they can. You close your eyes, rock gently now, but with the storm's roar still in your ears. Sleep now. The storm is past, but the mutiny lingers in silence. Chapter 13, The Trial of the Deck. The storm is gone. The sea is calmer, the sky pale, but the whispers remain. You hear them at the rail, in the rigging, by the water casks. Men mutter about the captain, about luck, about whether the sea has marked him, and then a fight breaks out. Two men shouting, fists flying. One accuses the other of stealing his tobacco. The other swears it's a lie. The scuffle ends with both dragged before the mast, their arms pinned. The crew gathers quickly. No bells are needed, justice is spectacle. The captain stands, cane steady. The quartermaster steps forward, voice sharp. We hold trial. The words ripple through the men like a signal. Pirates often held formal trials aboard ship. Disputes, theft, cowardice, and disobedience were brought before the whole crew. The captain and quartermaster presided, but the verdict came from majority vote. Punishments ranged from flogging to marooning. This pirate justice was brutal but carried the strange air of fairness. Everyone knew the rules, and everyone faced them alike. The first man speaks, voice hoarse. He stole my pouch tobacco I earned fair in port. The second snarls back. Lie. He lost it gambling, and now he wants it back. The crew murmurs. Some nod at one story, others at the other. The quartermaster raises a hand for silence. Speak truth, or face the rope. The men glare at each other, breath heavy. Finally, the quartermaster turns to the crew. Vote. Hands rise, slowly, one by one. The majority leans toward guilt. The accused curses, spitting at the deck. The verdict is sealed. Punishment comes swift. The man is tied to the mast, shirt stripped. The rope and whip cracks against his back once, twice, 10 times. His cries mix with the snap of rope, echoing against the sea. Blood streaks down his skin, glistening in the sunlight. When it ends, he slumps, breathing ragged. The crew disperses, faces calm, as though justice is done and forgotten. The quartermaster notes the verdict in a battered book, then closes it. The captain says nothing, his silence heavier than words. The man is untied, left to nurse his wounds alone. The sea does not pause. Work resumes. Marooning was the punishment most feared. A man left on a deserted island was given a pistol with a single shot enough to end his misery if he chose. Some legends tell of maroon men surviving, building huts, living off turtles and fish until rescued. More often, they were never seen again. Pirates used this punishment sparingly, for it was both brutal and permanent. Later that week, another trial comes. A man caught asleep on watch. His hammock is dragged into daylight, his face pale with fear. The captain speaks this time, voice low but sharp. You risk the lives of all when you close your eyes. The crew votes again, guilty. The punishment, marooning. The ship steers toward a barren spit of land, nothing but sand and scrub. The man is rowed ashore, pistol tucked into his belt, a single bottle of water clutched in his hands. He stumbles into the sand, turns once, shouting curses, promises of vengeance. Then the rowboat returns, the ship sails on. The man shrinks in the distance, a figure waving, then a dot, then nothing. The silence on deck is heavier than storm clouds. Were pirate punishments more humane than naval ones? Some argue yes, the crew judged, not a distant officer, and punishments were known to all in advance. Others say no pirate justice could be swift, merciless, and final, with little chance for defense. Records suggest it was both, brutal but bound by a strange code, harsher than land law yet oddly democratic. That night you lie in your hammock, the image of the marooned man still burning in your mind. His figure waving, shrinking, swallowed by horizon. You hear the creak of the ship, the scurry of rats, the swing of the lantern. You wonder if he is alive still, cursing the sea, or if the pistol has already spoken. You wonder how thin the line is between freedom and exile. Perhaps justice is not fairness, but ritual. A whip, a vote, a pistol on the sand. Perhaps men do not seek justice at all, but the illusion that rules bind them, that the sea is not endless chaos. You close your eyes, rocked by the endless sway, haunted by the waving figure. Sleep now. Tomorrow, another man may face the mast. Perhaps even you. Chapter 14, The Dead Calm. The storm is memory now. The marooned man is memory too. But the sea does not forget, and it does not forgive. You wake to silence, too much silence. When you climb to the deck, you see it immediately. The sails hang limp, sagging against the mast like rags on the line. The sea is flat, glassy, reflecting the pale sky in endless shimmer. No wind, no swell, no movement. The ship is dead. At first, men laugh. Better calm than storm, someone mutters and others nod. The bruises from rogue burns and lashes still sting. The memory of lightning still haunts. Calm feels like mercy, but mercy fades quickly. Hours pass. The sails do not stir. The ropes hang slack. The deck grows hot under the noon sun, boards burning beneath your boots. The tar between planks softens, bubbling, releasing its sticky perfume. The air is still, heavy, suffocating. Sweat runs down your back, your shirt clinging. Your mouth dries quickly. The water ration is thin, and rum burns your throat more than it quenches thirst. The sea stretches around you, mirror smooth, mocking in its stillness. By evening, no laughter remains. A dead calm, or doldrum, was dreaded by sailors. Without wind, sails were useless, and ships could drift for days, even weeks. Food rotted, water ran low, sickness spread. Some captains ordered men to row with longboats, towing their own ship, a desperate effort that rarely worked. For pirates, calm seas meant not only suffering, but missed plunder as their prey sailed on with the winds. By the second day, tempers fray. Men curse over small things spaced at the rail, scraps of food, the last drops of water in a mug. Dice games end in snarls, not laughter. The fiddle stays silent, the captain says little, his eyes on the horizon. The quartermaster growls orders to swab, to scrape, to mend busy work, distractions from the fact that the ship does not move. At night, the air below deck is unbearable. Stale, thick hot. Hammocks sway slightly, but only from the motion of restless bodies. Men toss, mutter, sweat through their shirts. Rats grow bold, crawling openly across beams, sniffing for crumbs. You lie awake, drenched, your tongue sticking to your teeth. The silence is worse than any storm. Some sailors believed calm seas were caused by angered spirits or sea witches. To break the spell, rituals were performed, tossing coins overboard, singing hymns, even flogging the crew to wake the wind. A stranger ritual involved hanging a man over the side, dunking him into the still water to appease whatever force held the air prisoner. Desperation bred strange faiths. By the fourth day, water grows scarce. The barrels slosh lower. What remains tastes sour, speckled with filth, but still men fight for it. Rum is rationed tighter too, though some sneak sips, their eyes glassy, their words slurred. Food spoils faster in the heat. Salted pork sweats fat, turning rancid. Ship's biscuit crumbles into mush, crawling with weevils that squirm in the sun. Men chew anyway, their jaws tight, eyes blank. The crew begins to mutter again, not just about food, but about fate. Some blame the captain, some blame the quartermaster. Some whisper about curses. You feel it, the storm of men building, even as the sea lies still. Accounts of doldrums vary. Some journals describe weeks of despair, men driven to madness by thirst and heat. Others suggest sailors exaggerated the horror, their memories warped by misery. Still, records agree. Calms killed ships as surely as storms. Starvation, scurvy, and mutiny bred more quickly when the sea refused to give wind. By the sixth day, eyes are hollow, voices are hoarse, work slows. Men slouch against rails, staring at the horizon as if willing it to change. Then at last a whisper of wind, a ripple across the water. The sails stir, trembling faintly, ropes creak as they catch. The ship shudders, groans, and moves slow, sluggish, but forward. The men cheer weakly, too drained to celebrate fully. But their eyes brighten, their shoulders lift, the spell is broken. That night, the ship sways again with rhythm, hammocks creak. The lantern swings, rats scurry in the beams, and the men breathe easier as though life has returned. You close your eyes, grateful for the creak, the groan, the motion. The stillness was worse than death. Perhaps it is not chaos that destroys men, but silence. Perhaps storms and violence are survivable, but stillness gnaws the mind, stripping hope more than hunger ever could. You drift into uneasy dreams, rocked gently once more by a living sea. Sleep now. The calm has passed, but the memory of it will linger, waiting for the next time the wind dies. Chapter 15, Treasure, Parrots, and Other Lies. The ship rocks gently. The wind hums steady through the rigging. Work continues as always, swabbing, hauling, coiling, scraping, but your mind drifts. You remember the stories you once heard, back on land. The tales of pirates told by firelight, whispered in taverns, shouted in marketplaces. Stories of buried treasure, of parrots perched on shoulders, of men with wooden legs and hooks for hands. Now, after weeks at sea, after storms and sickness, after hunger and rot, you know the truth. The stories were lies. The myth of buried treasure came largely from stories like those of Captain Kidd, whose supposed hoards were never found. In reality, pirates rarely buried anything. Coin was spent quickly on rum, on women, on fleeting pleasure in port. To hoard wealth meant to lose it, for a pirate's life was short. Most died broke, their treasure no more than a pouch of silver wasted in a tavern. You look at the men around you. They do not strut in plumed hats. They do not gleam with gold chains. They are barefoot, scarred, bent with labor. Their clothes are rags, patched until the fabric itself is more stitched than cloth. No one here looks like the heroes or villains of stories. They look like men. Tired, hungry, desperate men. Pirates were real enough, though not in the way stories tell. Pirates stole them from tropical ports, not as companions but as commodities. Exotic birds could be sold for high prices in Europe, their feathers prized. Some were kept aboard for amusement, their shrill voices breaking monotony, but they were not symbols of pirate life. Most of the time, they squawked until men threatened to wring their necks. You remember, too, the tales of wooden legs, of eye patches, of hooks glinting in the sun. Yes, injuries were common. A leg lost to cannon shot, an eye blinded by splinters, a hand crushed in rigging, but hooks were rare, legs seldom replaced. A maimed man often became a beggar, not a legend. Eye patches did exist, though sometimes not for injury, but for practicality keeping one eye adjusted to darkness below deck. The stories grew taller than the truth. Why did myths replace reality? Some argue it was propaganda colonial authorities painting pirates as monstrous to frighten sailors from joining. Others say it was entertainment tavern tales growing wilder with every telling until pirates became permanent and treasure eternal. Perhaps the truth was too bleak, too monotonous. Reality was raw and rum. Myth was gold and glory. As the day stretches on, you coil rope and hum to yourself, thinking of the stories you once believed. You imagine yourself as a child, dreaming of buried chests, of adventure, of freedom. You wish that child could see you now, sweat dripping, hands blistered, back bent under labor. Would that child still dream? Or would he turn away? At night, the men gamble again. Dice clatter, mugs clink, laughter rises thin but real. A man jokes about his treasure, pulling a pouch of tobacco from his shirt. Another raises his mug, rum sloshing, declaring it worth more than all the gold in the Indies. The crew laughs, you laugh too. Because you know now, this is the only treasure most pirates ever hold. Perhaps myths are not lies, but dreams men tell themselves to make the rot bearable. Perhaps parrots and treasure are not real, but they soothe the hunger more than truth ever could. You close your eyes, rocked by the ship, thinking of gold that never was and freedom that never lasted. Sleep now. Let the myths keep watch. The truth can wait for morning. Chapter 16. The King's Ships. The morning is bright, too bright. The sea glitters with cruel sharpness, the kind of light that hurts your eyes. The ship rocks gently, ropes creak lazily, and for once the air is calm. Then the cry comes, "Sail!" The word cuts through the stillness. Men rush to the rails, squinting at the horizon. At first, you see only shimmer. Then there, A shadow against the line of sea and sky, another ship. At first, excitement flickers. Another merchant, perhaps. Another fat prize. But then you see the shape more clearly, bigger, broader, lines too sharp, sails too disciplined, a warship, not prey. Hunter. The captain's face does not change. He plants his cane, steady as ever. She's naval. Spanish, perhaps English. Guns enough to crack us in half. Run her before she runs us, the quartermaster shouts. Ropes are hauled, sails trimmed. The ship lurches forward, wind filling canvas, boards groaning as speed builds. Men scatter, voices sharp with tension. Behind you, the hunter adjusts her sails too. She follows. Naval ships were the bane of pirates. Equipped with heavier cannon, larger crews, and orders to hunt without mercy, they stalked pirate routes relentlessly. Pirates relied on speed and cunning, avoiding open battle whenever possible. A single broadside from a warship could sink a pirate vessel in minutes. The chase begins. Hours pass, the sun climbing high, heat pressing against your skin. The sails above strain, snapping taut. The deck tilts as the ship cuts sharper through swells. The men sweat, curse, heave at ropes. Powder is brought up from the hold, barrels rolled and stacked, matches prepared. The warship closes slowly, steadily. She is a predator with time on her side. Your stomach knots as the distance shrinks. You hear the first boom, distant thunder. A splash erupts yards away, a geyser of white spray. The next shot comes closer, the crew mutters. Some curse, others pray, voices low and shaking. The captain grips the rail, eyes sharp, mouth set. Hold steady, he growls. The cannon fire grows louder. Balls scream overhead, smash into sea, splinter wood. Shards fly, men duck, curses rise. One ball strikes the stern, tearing a hole the size of a man. Splinters cut through skin like knives. A sailor falls, his leg mangled, screaming until another silences him with rum-soaked cloth. The air fills with smoke and salt, with powder and fear. The captain barks orders, his voice steady. Angle her. Catch the wind. She can't match us if we fly. The ship leans, sails snap, ropes groan. The warship adjusts, but slowly. For a moment, the distance grows. Men cheer, though weakly. Another shot roars, another hull splinters. But the sea favors you this time. A shift of wind, a lucky gust. The sails swell, pulling you forward. The warship falls behind, her bulk too heavy, her sails too slow. The crew laughs now, ragged, desperate, half hysterical. Some shout curses back at the horizon. Others slump against barrels, shaking with relief. The captain only taps his cane once. She not catch us today. When chased by naval ships, pirates sometimes dumped cargo barrels, crates, even cannon overboard to lighten the ship. Others spread oil on the sea to smooth waves and increase speed. Some captains even used deception, hoisting false flags, altering sails to mimic merchant vessels, only revealing their true nature once safe. By evening, the horizon is empty again. The warship has vanished into haze. The crew relaxes slowly, mutters fading into silence. The wounded man groans below deck, his leg bound in filthy cloth. Rum is poured, mugs raised, but the cheer is thin. Everyone knows the warship will not be the last. Were pirates brave or cowardly against navies? Some argue they fought fiercely, preferring death to capture. Others insist they fled whenever possible, knowing naval prisons meant slow death by trial and gallows. The truth likely shifted with circumstance. Pirates were bold when they held the advantage, and cunning when they did not. Survival, not honor, guided them. That night, the sea is calm again. The lantern sways, the hammocks creak, the rats scurry above. But the memory of cannon fire lingers. You lie awake, staring at the beams, hearing echoes of splintering wood and screaming shot. And you wonder how many pirates live long enough to escape the hunter's shadow. Perhaps freedom always breeds hunters. Perhaps the sea cannot abide rebellion without sending warships to chase it down. You close your eyes, the ship rocking gently, the sound of distant thunder still ringing in your head. Sleep now. Tonight you've escaped. Tomorrow the hunt may return. Chapter 17 whispers, omens, and ghosts on the waves. The night is too quiet. The waves lap gently against the hull. The sails flap lazily. The ropes creak in their endless rhythm. But it is not the calm that keeps you awake. It is the whispers. Men sit in a circle near the lantern, mugs of rum in hand, faces half lit, half shadow. Their voices are low, but they carry across the deck. Stories. Always stories. The sea is full of them. One man speaks of lights dancing flames that hover above the mast in storms. St. Elmo's fire, he calls it. An omen. Some say it means protection, the spirits guiding the ship through danger. Others swear it is a curse, a warning of death to come. Another mutters of shadows, sailors lost at sea who return to walk the deck at night. He swears he saw one once, pale face, dripping wet, eyes hollow. The ghost stood by the rail, then vanished into spray. The man spits as he tells it, warding off bad luck. The others nod, some crossing themselves, some muttering charms. You notice how serious they are. No laughter, no mockery. At sea, superstition is stronger than reason. Sailors of all kinds were famously superstitious. Whistling was thought to summon storms. Women aboard were considered bad luck, while cats brought protection. Killing a seabird, especially an albatross, was a grave sin. Many believe drowned sailors became part of the sea itself, their souls trapped in waves forever. The stories continue. A man with a scar across his cheek speaks of mermaids, not beautiful, singing temptresses but pale figures with hair like seaweed and eyes like dead fish. He swears he saw one in the moonlight, clinging to driftwood, watching him with hunger. He still wakes sweating at the memory. Another tells of cursed ship's hulks that drift with torn sails, crewless, yet moving as if alive. To see one, he insists, is to know your own ship will meet the same fate. The lantern flickers as he speaks, shadows stretching long across the planks. You find yourself glancing at the rail, half expecting a dripping figure to appear. Some pirates carried charms, bits of bone, teeth, coins with holes drilled through them. Tattoos too, though, crude anchors, crosses, skulls. These were not decorations, but protections. A pig and a rooster tattooed on a sailor's feet were believed to keep him from drowning, since those animals often survived shipwrecks by floating in crates. The quartermaster growls eventually, telling the men to quiet. Stories breed fear, he mutters, but he does not forbid them. Even he knows silence breeds worse. That night, lying in your hammock, you cannot sleep. The lantern sways, shadows crawl across the beams. You hear the creak of wood, the scratch of rats, the soft breath of sleeping men, and something else, a whisper. Low, almost too soft to catch. You tell yourself it is the rope rubbing, the wind slipping through cracks. But still you hear it. Your eyes dart to the rail. For a moment, you think you see a pale figure standing there, watching. But the lantern sways, and the shadow shifts, and it is gone. You close your eyes tightly, clutching the canvas, telling yourself it was nothing. But the whisper lingers. Did pirates truly believe in ghosts and omens, or were stories just a way to pass time? Some historians argue superstition was survival to explain the unexplainable, to make sense of storms and deaths. Others suggest it was deliberate control captains encouraging fear of curses to keep crews obedient. But journals reveal sincerity. Men wrote of birds, lights, and omens with trembling hands. Belief was real, even if the ghosts were not. The next day, the crew is quieter. Eyes glance at the horizon, at the mast, at the water. Men mutter small charms, touch carvings in the wood, spit over the side for luck. The night stories cling, heavier than salt. You coil rope, scrub decks, haul water, but you keep looking at the rail, waiting for a pale figure to return. Perhaps ghosts are not the dead, but the weight of fear we carry. Perhaps omens are not signs from gods, but the way men try to wrestle sense from endless sea. You close your eyes that night, whispering to yourself, hoping the sea will not whisper back. Sleep now. If ghosts walk the deck, let them walk softly. Chapter 1:8. The weight of years. The sea does not measure time the way land does. Days blur into one another watches, bells, storms, calms, but the body keeps its own tally. And you begin to notice it in the men around you. The older ones move slower. Their hands tremble when they haul rope. Their shoulders hunch under weight that once seemed nothing. Their hair is thin, their teeth few. Some limp, their knees swollen, joints stiff from years of damp and strain. They are pirates still, but their bodies betray them. One man coughs every morning, a hollow bark that rattles his chest. Another squints into the distance, eyes milky, unable to spot sails anymore. A third chews with gums alone, his teeth long since gone to rot. Yet still they climb the rigging, still they swab, still they coil rope. Pride drives them as much as necessity. On a ship, weakness is dangerous. Weakness makes whispers. And whispers sink faster than cannonballs. The average pirate's career was short, often less than 5 years. Many died young, in battle, from disease, or the gallows. Those who lived longer bore the scars, broken bones that never healed, scurvy that ruined gums and joints, chronic pain from years of hauling and storms. A handful survived into old age, but they were rare, remembered more as legends than men. The surgeon tends to the old ones more often. His remedies are crude vinegar for wounds, rum for pain, leeches for fevers. He sets bones with rough splints, sews gashes with coarse thread, smears tar into cuts to keep rot at bay. The men endure, faces blank, groans swallowed. But time is the one wound no surgeon can stitch. Some pirates wear earrings not as decoration, but as superstition. A gold hoop, they believed, could pay for a sailor's burial if his body washed ashore. Others claimed piercing eased eyesight at sea. Old men clung to these charms more fiercely, as though a bit of gold could cheat time itself. One night, you sit with an older pirate. His hair is gray, his skin leathery, his hands cracked and bent. He drinks rum slowly, not with the greed of younger men, but with the weariness of habit. He tells you of raids past, of ships burned, of silver spilling like water across decks. His voice is steady, but his eyes drift often, as though he can see the ghosts of those days better than the faces before him. Then he grows quiet. His gaze hardens. He mutters, almost to himself, "We all think we'll die quick." Blade, ball, rope. But the sea don't always grant mercy. Sometimes it leaves you to rot slow. He drinks again. His hand trembles. You say nothing. There is nothing to say. Did pirates long for retirement? Some argue they dreamed of buying land, living quietly after years at sea. Others suggest few believed they'd survive that long, spending every coin in taverns as if tomorrow would never come. Records show rare cases of pirates settling down, becoming farmers. Merchants, even tavern keepers, but most ended their days with gallows or sea. By day, the old ones labor. By night, they groan in hammocks, bones aching, dreams restless. Some mutter names you do not know. Others stare silently at beams above, eyes hollow. You realize then, the sea is not just endless. It is consuming. It takes teeth, hair, sight, strength. It leaves men hollowed out, still alive, but not whole. And you wonder if this will be you one day, gray, bent, whispering of raids that feel like myths even as you live them. Perhaps death is not the storm, but the long decay. Perhaps the cruelest fate is not the gallows, but to outlive the sea, to feel it eating you piece by piece until nothing remains but whispers. You close your eyes, hearing the groans of hammocks, the coughs of tired lungs. Sleep now. You are young tonight, but the sea is patient and she will wait for you. Chapter 19. The noose awaits. The sea has given you storms, sickness, hunger, whispers, and silence. But there is one thing it has not given: forgiveness. It happens on a clear morning. The horizon is sharp, the wind steady. The ship rocks easily, ropes creak in rhythm, sails full and taut. For once all seems calm. Then the cry comes, "Sail!" At first the men grin, expecting another merchant prize. But soon the grins fade. The shape is too sharp, the sails too disciplined, the speed too fast. A naval warship, larger than the last, bearing down with intent. There is no running this time. The captain's cane taps the boards once. His voice is low. Prepare to fight. Cannons thunder before you are ready. Splinters fly, sails cheer, wood shatters. Men shout, curse, scream. Smoke fills the air, thick and choking. The ship rocks violently as another broadside smashes the hull. You fire back. Powder burns your nose, your ears ring with each blast. The recoil bruises your shoulder. But their guns are heavier, their crews more disciplined. Another shot tears through the deck, throwing men into the air. Blood splatters across planks, hot and sharp. The quartermaster roars for men to hold, but the warship closes. Grappling hooks fly, ropes bite, and the enemy swarms aboard. Soldiers in crisp uniforms, muskets and bayonets gleaming. Their boots thud in perfect rhythm, their faces hard with duty. The fight is brief, too brief. Pirates swing cutlasses wildly, fire pistols into smoke, scream with fury. But they are outnumbered, outgunned, exhausted. The captain fights with his cane in one hand, a pistol in the other, coat torn, face grim. But even he is dragged down, bound in iron, and then it is over. You are thrown to the deck, wrists tied behind you, face pressed into wood sticky with blood and powder. Around you, the crew groans, curses, weeps. Some lie silent, never to rise again. The sea watches, indifferent. Captured pirates were rarely spared. Naval forces brought them to trial in colonial ports, Jamaica, Boston, London. Trials were swift, verdicts predictable. The sentence was almost always death by hanging. Bodies were sometimes left to rot in chains at harbor entrances, a warning to others. Days later, you are marched through streets. Crowds gather, jeering, spitting, throwing rotten food. Children point, men curse, women clutch their shawls tighter. You are not feared now, but mocked. The courtroom is simple. A judge in powdered wig, clerks scratching notes, guards standing stiff. Witnesses speak against you, merchants robbed, sailors wounded, Navy officers eager for glory. The verdict is no surprise, guilty. The sentence, death by hanging. Pirates were often hanged at specific sites: Execution Dock in London, Gallows Point in Port Royal. Bodies were tarred and left in gibbets, cages of iron, as warnings to sailors entering harbor. Some corpses swung for years, bones rattling in the wind, their shadows stretching across the water at low tide. The day comes. You are led to the scaffold, rope already hanging. The crowd is thick, buzzing with excitement. For them, it is spectacle punishment dressed as entertainment. The noose is rough against your neck, hemp scratching skin. The platform creaks beneath your boots. The sky above is sharp blue, mocking in its beauty. The captain stands beside you, cane gone, hands bound. His face is calm, his eyes steady. He mutters something low, maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. You cannot hear. The hoot is not given. Pirates die in daylight, their faces exposed, their eyes open. The trapdoor falls. For a moment, air rushes past, ropes snap, and the world goes black. The sea is far away now. Were executions effective deterrents? Some argue yes, the sight of tarred corpses hanging in gibbets struck fear into sailors, discouraging piracy. Others suggest no, the lure of freedom, equality, and plunder outweighed the gallows. For many, death was inevitable anyway, and a noose no worse than the sea. Perhaps death is not the end, but the last wave the sea gives you. Perhaps the noose is not punishment, but release from hunger, rot, storms, and endless creak of rope. You drift into darkness, hearing still the whisper of waves against hulls, the eternal song of the ocean. Sleep now. The gallows has claimed you, but the sea remembers. Chapter 20. The sea remembers. The gallows creaked. The rope snapped. The bodies swung. But the sea did not end there. The sea never ends. Men die, but the water remains, carrying their names in whispers and foam in the endless slap of waves against wood. You're gone now, or perhaps you're still there, rocking in your hammock, coiling rope, hauling sail. Perhaps you are the one buried in canvas and slid over the side, the splash small and final. Perhaps you are the one left on an island, pistol in hand, sand hot beneath your knees. Or perhaps you are a memory alone, drifting like fog across time. The ship sails on, even without you. By the early 18th century, the golden age of piracy was already fading. Navies grew stronger, trade routes were better guarded, laws harsher. Some pirates turned informant, others fled inland, a few disappeared into legend. But the image of the pirate outlived them all, transformed into story, myth, and dream. The myths remain: buried treasure, parrots on shoulders, men with hooks and wooden legs. Children play them out in games, their laughter carrying echoes of long-forgotten screams. Writers set them in ink, smoothing over rot and hunger, turning blood into adventure. The true sickness storms, gallows fades, the stories grow brighter. And perhaps that is mercy. Even centuries later, some coastal towns in the Caribbean still tell stories of pirate ghosts. Lights at sea, unexplained noises, shadows on water. Tourists come for the legends, not the truth. The truth was too monotonous, too harsh, but myths glitter, the sea rolls on. Waves rise, fall, whisper, hush. The same sounds you heard every night, the creak of rope, the groan of wood, the sigh of water. They continue long after you're gone. The ship is not one ship, but many, always different, yet always the same. One crew dies, another takes its place. One captain falls, another rises. The cycle repeats, endless as the tide, and you're a part of it now. A name swallowed, a shadow remembered, a whisper carried in the salt wind. Piracy was never truly freedom, nor truly rebellion. It was survival wrapped in desperation, equality built on blood, democracy tied to hunger. Historians argue whether pirates were criminals, revolutionaries, or something in between. Perhaps they were simply men against the sea, grasping at moments of choice before the ocean took them back. The lantern swings. The hammock creaks. The rats scurry in the beams. The same sounds, always the same. And in them, you hear the rhythm of eternity. Perhaps the sea is the only true pirate, endless, merciless, free. Men borrow her for a time, live and die on her back, then return to her depths. Their gold rusts, their bones sink, their names fade, but the waves remain. You close your eyes now, not in fear, but in surrender. The creak of rope, the lap of water, the sigh of wind, they are lullabies. The sea carries you as she has carried countless before. Sleep now, the voyage is over. But the sea remembers,